Condemning the people of Basra, you were the army of a woman, and in the command of a quadruped. When it grumbled, you responded, and when it was wounded hamstrung, you fled away. Your character is low, and your pledge is broken. Your faith is hypocrisy, your water is brackish. He who stays with you is laden with sins, and he who forsakes you secures Allah's mercy. As though I see your mosque prominent, resembling the surface of a boat, while Allah has sent chastisement from above and from below it, and everyone who is on it is drowned. Another version of the same sermon, by Allah. Your city would certainly be drowned, so much so that as though I see its mosque like the upper part of a boat or a sitting ostrich, or, in another version of his statement, like the bosom of a bird in the deep sea. Yet another version states the following: Your city is the most stinking of all the cities as regarding its clay, the nearest to water and remotest from the sky. It contains 9/10 of evil. He who enters it is surrounded with his sins, and he who is out of it enjoys Allah's forgiveness. It seems as though I look at this habitation of yours, that water has so engulfed it, that nothing can be seen of it, except the highest part of the mosque, appearing like the bosom of a bird in the deep sea. Ibn Maytham writes that when the battle of Jamal ended, 3 days thereafter, Amir al-Mu'minin said the morning prayer in the central mosque of Basra. After finished it, he stood on the right side of the prayer place, reclining against the wall, and delivered this sermon, wherein he described the lowness of character of the people of Basra, and their slyness, namely that they got inflamed at others' instigation without any one of their own, and making over their command to a woman clung to a camel. They broke away after swearing allegiance, and exhibited their low character and evil nature by being double-faced. In this sermon, the woman implies Aisha, and the quadruped implies the camel Jamal, after which this battle has been named the Battle of the Jamal. This battle originated in this way. During the lifetime of Othman, Aisha used to oppose him and had left for Mecca, leaving him in siege, and as such she had a share in his assassination, details of which will be stated at some suitable place. But when on her return from Mecca toward Medina, she heard from Abdullah ibn Salama that Othman's allegiance had been paid to Ali as caliph, she suddenly exclaimed, "If allegiance has been paid to Ali, I wish the sky had burst on the earth. Let me go back to Mecca." Consequently, she decided to return to Mecca and began saying, "By Allah, Othman has been helplessly killed. I shall certainly avenge his blood." On seeing this wide change in the state of affairs, Abu Salama said, "What are you saying, as you yourself used to say, 'Kill this Nahjul'?" He had turned unbeliever. Thereupon she replied, "Not only I but everyone used to say so. But leave these things and listen to what I am now saying. That is better and deserves more attention. It is so strange that first he was called upon to repent, but before giving him an opportunity to do so, he has been killed." On this, Abu Salama recited the following verses addressing her: "You started it, and now you are changing and raising storms of wind and rain. You ordered for his killing and told us that he had turned unbeliever. We admit that he has been killed, but under your orders, and the real killer is the one who ordered it. Nevertheless, neither the sky fell over us, nor did the sun and moon fall into eclipse. Certainly, people have paid allegiance to one who can ward off the enemy with power and grandeur, does not allow swords to come near him, and loosens the twist of the rope, that is, subdues his enemy. He is always fully armed for combat, and the faithful is never like the traitor." However, when she reached Mecca with a passion for vengeance, she began rousing the people to avenge Othman's blood by circulating stories of his having been victimized. First to respond to this call was Abdullah ibn Amir al-Hadrami, who had been the governor of Mecca in Othman's reign, and with him Marwan ibn al-Hakam. Sayyid ibn Alas and other Umayyads rose to support her. On the other side, Talha ibn Ubaydillah and Az-Zubayr ibn al-Awwam also reached Mecca from Medina. From Yemen, Yalai ibn Munabi, who had been governor there during Othman's caliphate and the former governor of Basra, Abdullah ibn Amir ibn Qurayz also reached there, and joining together began preparing their plans. The battle had been decided upon, but the discussion was about the venue of confrontation. Aisha's opinion was to make Medina the venue of the battle, but some people opposed and held that it was difficult to deal with Medinites and that some other place should be chose as the venue. At last, after much discussion, it was decided to march towards Basra, as there was no dearth of men to support the cause. Consequently, on the strength of Abdullah ibn Amir's countless wealth and the offer of 600,000 dirhams and 600 camels by Yalai ibn Manabi, they prepared any army of 3,000 and set off to Basra. There was a small incident on the way of account of which Aisha refused to advance further. What happened was that at a place she heard the barking of dogs, and inquired from the camel driver the name of the place. He said it was Hoab. On hearing this name, she recalled the Prophet's admonition when he has said to his wives, I wish I could know at which of you the dogs of Hoab would bark. So when she realized that she herself was the one, she got the camel seated by patting, and expressed her intention to abandon Themark. But the device of her companions saved the deteriorating situation. Abdullah ibn Az-Zubair swore to assure her that it was not Hoab. Talha seconded him, and for a further assurance also sent for 50 persons to testify to it. When all of the people were on one side, what could a single woman do by opposing? Eventually they were successful, and Aisha resumed her forward march with the same enthusiasm. When this army reached Basra, people were first amazed to see the riding animal of Aisha. Juriyah ibn Qudama came forward and said, O mother of the faithful, the assassination of Othman was one tragedy, but the greater tragedy is that you have come out on this cursed camel and ruin your honor and esteem. It is better that you should get back. But since neither the incident at Hoab could deter her, nor could the Quranic injunction, keep sitting in your houses. 33. Stop her. What effect could these voices produce? Consequently, she disregarded all of this. When the army tried to enter the city, the governor of Basra, Othman ibn Hanif, came forward to stop them, and when the two parties came face to face, they drew their swords out of the sheaths and pounced upon each other. When a good number had been killed from either side, Aisha intervened on the basis of her influence, and the two groups agreed that until the arrival of Amir al-Mu'minin, the existing administration should continue, and Othman ibn Hanif should continue on his post. But only 2 days had elapsed when they made a nightly attack on Othman ibn Hanif, killed 40 innocent persons, beat Othman ibn Hanif, plucked every hair of his bread, took him in their custody, and shut him up. Then they attacked the public treasury, and while ransacking it, killed 20 persons on the spot, and beheaded 50 more after arresting them. Then they attacked the grain store, whereupon an elderly noble of Basra, Hukaym ibn Jabalah, could not control himself, and reaching there with his men said to Abdullah ibn Az-Zubair, spare some of this grain for the city's populace. After all, there should be a limit to oppression. You have spread killing and destruction all around and put Othman ibn Hanif in confinement. For Allah's sake, keep off these ruining activities and release Othman ibn Hanif. Is there no fear of Allah in your hearts? Ibn Az-Zubair said, this is vengeance of Othman's life. Hukaym ibn Jabalah retorted, were those who have been killed assassins of Othman? By Allah, if I had supporters and comrades, I should have certainly avenged the blood of these Muslims, whom you have killed without reason. Ibn Az-Zubair replied, we shall not give anything out of this grain, nor will Othman ibn Hanif be released. At last the battle raged between these two parties, but how could a few individuals deal with such a big force? The result was the Hukaym ibn Jabalah, his son Al-Ashraf ibn Hukaym ibn Jabalah, his brother Ar-Ril ibn Jabalah, and 70 persons of his tribe were killed. In short, killing and looting prevailed all around. Neither anyone's life was secure, nor was there any way to save one honor or property. When Amir al-Mu'minin was informed of Themark to Basra, he set out to stop it with a force which consisted of 70 of those who had taken part in the Battle of Badr, and 400 out of those companions who had the honor of being present at the allegiance of Ridwan, the divine pleasure, When he stopped at the stage of Kokar, he sent his son Hassan and Amr ibn Yasir to Kufa to invite its people to fighting. Consequently, despite interference of Abu Musa al-Ash'ari 7,000 combatants from their joined Amir al-Mu'minin's army. He left that place after placing the army under various commanders. Eyewitnesses state that when his force reached near Basra, first of all a contingent of Ansar appeared foremost. Its standard was held by Abu Ayyub al-Ansari. After it appeared another contingent of 100, whose commander was Khuzaymah ibn Thabit al-Ansari. Then another contingent came in sight. Its standard was borne by Abu Qatada ibn ar-Rabi. Then a crowd of 1,000 old and young persons was seen. They had signs of prostration on their foreheads and veils of fear of Allah on their face. It seemed as if they were standing before the divine glory of the Day of Judgment. Their commander rode a dark horse, was dressed in white, had a black turban on his head, and was reciting the Holy Quran loudly. This was Amr ibn Yasir. Then another contingent appeared. Its standard was in the hand of Qays ibn Sodi ibn Abada. Then an army came to sight. Its leader wore white outfit and had a black turban on this head. He was so handsome that all eyes centered around him. This was Abdullah ibn Abbas. Then followed a contingent of the companions of the Prophet. Their standard bearer was Uthman ibn Abbas. Then, after the passing of a few contingents, a big crowd was seen, wherein there was such a large number of spears that they were overlapping, and flags of numerous colors were flying. Among them, a big and lofty standard was seen with a distinctive status. Behind it was seen a rider guarded by sublimity and greatness. His sinews were well developed, and his eyes were cast downwards. His awe and dignity was such that no one could look at him. This was the ever-victorious Lion of Allah, namely Ali ibn Abu Talib. On his right and left were Hassan and Hussein, peace be upon them. In front of him, Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiyyah walked in slow steps, carrying the banner of victory and glory, and on the back were young men of Banu Hashim, the people of Badr, and Abdullah ibn Jafar ibn Abu Talib. When this army reached the place as Zawiyah, Amir al-Mu'minin alighted from the horse. After performing a 4 rakat prayer, he put his cheeks on the ground. When he lifted his head, the ground was drenched with tears, and his tongue was uttering these words: O sustainer of earth, heaven, and the high firmament, this is Basra. Fill our lap with its good and protect us from its evil. Then proceeding forward, he got down in the battlefield of Jamal, where the enemy was already camping. First of all, Amir al-Mu'minin announced in his army that no one should attack another nor take the initiative. Saying this, he came in front of the opposite army and said to Talha and Az-Zubayr, Ask Aisha by swearing in the name of Allah and his Prophet, whether I am not free from the blame of Othman's blood, and whether I use the same words for him which he used to say, and whether I pressed you for allegiance, or you swore it of your own free will. Talha got exasperated at these words, but Az-Zubayr relented. Amir al-Mu'minin turned back after it, and giving the Holy Quran to Muslim, a young man from the tribe of Abd Qays, sent him toward them to pronounce to them the verdict of the Holy Quran. But people took both of them within aim, and covered this godly man with their arrows. Then Amr ibn Yasir went to canvass and convince them and caution them with the consequences of war, but his words were also replied by arrows. Until now, Amir al-Mu'minin had not allowed an attack, as a result of which the enemy continued feeling encouraged and went on raining arrows constantly. At last, with the dying of a few valiant combatants, consternation was created among Amir al-Mu'minin's ranks, and some people came with a few bodies before him and said, O Commander of the Faithful, you are not allowing us to fight while they are covering us with arrows. How long can we let them make our bosoms the victim of their arrows and remain hand-folded at their excesses? At this, Amir al-Mu'minin did show anger, but acting with restraint and endurance, came to the enemy in that very form without wearing armor or any arm, and shouted, Where is Az-Zubayr? At first Az-Zubayr hesitated to come forward, but he noticed that Amir al-Mu'minin had no arms, so he came out. Amir al-Mu'minin said to him, O Az-Zubayr, you must remember that one day the Prophet told you that you would fight with me, and wrong and excess would be on your side. As Ubayr replied that he had said so, then Amir al-Mu'minin inquired, why have you come then? He replied that his memory had missed it, and if he had recollected it earlier he would not have come that way. Amir al-Mu'minin said, well, now you have recollected it. And he replied, yes. Saying this, he went straight to Aisha and told her that he was leaving. She asked him the reason, and he replied, Ali has reminded me of forgotten matter. I had gone astray, but now I have come on the right path, and would not fight Ali ibn Abu Talib at any cost. Aisha said, you have caught the fear of the swords of the sons of Abdul Muttalib. He said no, and saying this, he turned the reins of his horse. However, it is gratifying that some consideration was accorded to the Prophet's saying, for at Hor, even after recollection of Prophet's words, no more than a transient effect was taken of it. On returning after this conversation, Amir al-Mu'minin observed that they had attacked the right and left flanks of his army. Noticing this, Amir al-Mu'minin said, now the plea has been exhausted. Call my son Muhammad. When he came, Amir al-Mu'minin said, my son, attack them now. Muhammad bowed his head, and taking the standard proceeded to the battlefield. But arrows were falling in such exuberance that he had to stop. When Amir al-Mu'minin saw this, he called out at him, Muhammad, why do not you advance? He said, Father, in this shower of arrows there is not way to proceed. I will wait till the violence of arrows subsides. The Imam said, no, thrust yourself in the arrows and spears and attack. Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiyyah advanced a little, but the archers so surrounded him that he had to hold his steps. On seeing this, a frown, 348, appeared on Amir al-Mu'minin's forehead, and said, this is the effect of your mother's veins. Saying this, he took the standard from his hands, and folded up his sleeves, and made such an attack that a tumult was created in the enemy ranks from one end to the other. To whichever row he turned, it became clear, and to whatever side he directed himself, bodies were seen falling and heads rolling in the hoofs of horses. When after convulsing the rows, he returned to his status and said to Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiyyah, look, my son, battles are fought like this. Saying this, he gave the standard to him and ordered him to proceed. Muhammad advanced toward the enemy with a contingent of Ansar. The enemy also came out moving and balancing their spears. But the brave son of the valiant father convulsed, rows over rows, while the other warriors made the battlefield glory, and left heaps of dead bodies. From the other side there was a full demonstration of the spirit of sacrifice. Dead bodies were falling one over the other, but they continued sacrificing their lives devotedly around the camel. Particularly, the condition of Banu Dabba was that although their hands were being severed from the elbows for holding the reins of the camel and bosoms were being pierced, yet they had the following battle song on their tongues. To us death is sweeter than honey. We are Banu Dabba, camel rearers. We are sons of death when death comes. We announce the death of Othman with the edges of spears. Give us back our chief, and there is an end to it. The low character and ignorance from faith of these Banu Dabba can be well understood by that one incident which al-Madaini has narrated. He writes that in Basra there was a man with a mutilated ear. He asked him its reason when he said, I was watching the sight of dead bodies in the battlefield of Jamal, when I saw a wounded man who sometimes raised his head, and sometimes dashed it back on the ground. I approached near. Then the following 2 verses were on his lips. Our mother pushed us into the deep waters of death, and did not get back till we had thoroughly drunk. By misfortune we obeyed. Banu Taym, who are none but slave men and slave girls. I told him it was not the time to recite verses. He should rather recall Allah and recite the Kalima Shahada, verse of testimony. On my saying this, he gave me an angry look, and uttering a severe abuse, said, You are asking me to recite the Kalima, get frightened at the last moment, and show impatience. I was astonished to hear this, and decided to return without saying anything further. When he saw me returned, he said, Wait, for your sake I am prepared to recite, but teach me. I drew close to teach him the Kalima when he asked me to get closer. When I got closer, he caught my ear with his teeth, and did not leave it till he tore it from the root. I did not think it proper to assault a dying man, and was about to get back abusing and cursing him, when he asked me to listen to one More thing, I agreed to listen lest he had an unsatisfied wish. He said that when I should get to my mother, and she inquired who had bitten my ear, I should say that it was done by Ummah ibn Ahlul Dabi, who had been deceived by a woman aspiring to become the commander of the faithful head of state. However, when the dazzling lightning of swords finished the lives of thousands of persons, and hundreds of Banu Azd and Banu Daba were killed for holding the rein of the camel, Amir al-Mu'minin ordered, "Kill the camel, for it is Satan." Saying this, he made such a severe attack that the cries of peace and protection rose from all around. When he reached near the camel, he ordered Buja ibn Bulja to kill the camel at once. Consequently, Buja hit it with such might that the camel fell in agony on the side of its bosom. No sooner than the camel fell, the opposite army took to heels, and the carrier holding Aisha was left lonely and unguarded. The companions of Amir al-Mu'minin took control of the carrier, and under orders of Amir al-Mu'minin, Muhammad ibn Abu Bakr escorted Aisha to the house of Safi, your daughter of Al-Harith. This encounter commenced on the 10th of Jumada Roman 2, 36 AH, in the afternoon, and came to an end the same evening. In it from Amir al-Mu'min's army of 22,000, 1,070, or according to another version, 500 persons were killed as martyrs, while from Aisha's army of 30,000, 17,000 persons were killed, and the Prophet saying that people who assigned their affairs of state to a woman would never prosper was fully corroborated. Al-Imam Walsiyosa, Muraj al-Dahab, Al-Iqt al-Farid, Al-Tabari's Tariq, 2, Ibn Abul Hadid has written that prophesied by Amir al-Mu'minin, Basra got under the floods twice, once during the days of Al-Qadir Billah, and once during the reign of Al-Qaim by Amrillah. The condition of flooding was such that the whole city was submerged, but the top ends of the mosque were seen about in the surface of the water, and looked like a bird encroaching on its bosom's side. Also condemning the people of Basra, your earth is close to the sea and away from the sky. Your wits have become light, and your minds are full of folly. You are the aim of the archer, a morsel for the eater, and an easy prey for the hunter. Delivered when allegiance was sworn to him at Medina. The responsibility for what I say is guaranteed, and I am answerable for it. He to whom experiences have clearly shown the past exemplary punishments given by Allah to people is prevented by piety from falling into doubts. You should know that the same troubles have returned to you which existed when the Prophet by Allah who sent the Prophet was first sent, with faith and truth. You will be severely subverted, bitterly shaken as in sieving and fully mixed, as by spooning in a cooking pot, till your low persons become high and high ones become low. Those who were behind would attain forward positions, and those who were forward would become backward. By Allah, I have not concealed a single word or spoken any lie, and I had been informed of this event and of this time. Beware that sins are like unruly horses on whom their riders have been placed, and their reins have been let loose, so that they would jump with them in hell. Beware that piety is like trained horses, on whom the riders have been placed with the reins in the hands, so that they would take the riders to heaven. There is right and wrong, and there are followers for each. If wrong dominates, it has always in the past been so, and if truth goes down, that too has often occurred. It seldom happens that a thing that lags behind comes forward. Ash-Sharif Radi says the following by way of commenting on the above. In the short speech, there is more beauty than can be appreciated, and the quantity of amazement aroused by it is more than can be appreciated. Despite what we have stated, it has so many aspects of eloquence that cannot be expressed, nor can anyone reach its depth. And no one can understand what I am saying unless one has attained this hour and known its details. No one appreciates it except those who know Holy Quran 29:43 from the same sermon. He who has heaven and hell in his view has no other aim. He who attempts and acts quickly succeeds, while the seeker who is slow may also entertain hope, and he who falls short of actions faces destruction in hell. On the right and left there are misleading paths. Only the middle way, if the right path, which is the everlasting book and the traditions of the Prophet, eventual return. From it the sana has spread out, and toward it is the he who claims otherwise is ruined, and he who concocts falsehood is disappointed. He who opposes one the right with his face gets destruction. It is enough ignorance for a man not to know himself. He who is strong-rooted too in piety does not get destruction, and the plantation of the people based on piety never remains without water. Hide yourselves in your houses and reform yourselves. Repentance is at your back. One should praise only Allah and condemn only his own self. In some versions of this same sermon, after the words man abda safato, hu lil haki haloka, the words inda jahalatan nas also occur. In that case, the meaning of this sentence would be that he who stands in the face of right dies in the estimation of the ignorant. Piety is the connotation of the heart, and the mind being affected and impressed by the divine greatness and glory. As an effect of it, the spirit of man becomes full of the fear of Allah, and its inevitable result is that engrossment in worship and prayers increases. It is impossible that the heart may be full of the divine fear, and there be no manifestation of it in actions and deeds. And since worship and submission reform the heart and nurture the spirit, purity of heart increases with the increase of worship. That is why in the Holy Quran, attaqwa piety has been applied sometimes to fear in the verse itaqwal. Loha hakotu katihi, worship Allah as he ought to be worshipped. 3:102. Taqwa implies worship and devotion, and in the verse wa yaksh, Aloha wa yatak, Ifoleka humul Fazan 24:52, taqwa implies purity of the spirit and cleanliness of the heart. In the traditions, taqwa has been assigned 3 degrees. The first degree is that a man should follow the injunctions and keep aloof from prohibitions. The second degree is that recommended matters should also be followed and disliked things should be avoided. The third degree is that, for fear of falling into doubts, one may abstain from the permissible as well. The first degree is for the common men, the second for the nobles, and the third for the high dignitaries. Allah has referred to these 3 degrees in the following verse. On those who believe and do good is not blame for what they ate before, when they did guard themselves and did believe and did good. Still furthermore, they guard themselves and do good, and Allah loves the doers of good. Holy Quran 5:93 Amir al-Mu'minin says that only action based on piety is lasting, and only that action will blossom and bear fruit which is watered by piety, because worship is only the wherein the feeling of submissiveness exists. Thus Allah says the following: Is he, therefore, better who has laid his foundation on fear of Allah and his goodwill, or he who lays his foundation on the brink of a crumbling bank, so it broke down with him into the fire of hell? Holy Quran 9:109. Consequently, every such belief as is not based on knowledge and conviction is like the edifice, erected without foundation, wherein there is no stability or firmness, while every action that is without piety is like the plantation which withers because of not being watered. When Imam Ali delivered this sermon in Medina, at the moment allegiance was sworn to him, he opened with the weighty declaration that he is fully responsible for what he says, guaranteeing its truth and bearing its consequences. This statement itself reflects his confidence in divine knowledge and his unwavering sincerity. He presents himself not as a politician seeking power, but as a guide conscious of the burden of truth. He invokes the past and reminds his listeners of the divine punishments that befell previous nations due to arrogance, rebellion, and disobedience, urging that the wise draw caution from history. Those who have truly understood the lessons of the past will be protected by taqwa God, consciousness, from slipping into doubts and spiritual confusion. He declares that the very same challenges and trials that plagued the early days of the Prophet's mission have once again returned. This is not merely a historical parallel, but a spiritual truth. It suggests that the cycle of human forgetfulness, rebellion, and moral collapse is repeating. The return of such trials is not accidental but inevitable, tied to human nature and the spiritual struggle between truth and falsehood. Imam Ali warns the people that they will soon be violently tested, shaken like grain in a sieve, mixed and turned like ingredients in a boiling pot. In this process, social and moral orders will be inverted. Those once low will rise, and those once held high will fall. Forward ones will retreat, and the backward will advance. The test will expose the real essence of every individual, stripping away pretensions, and revealing the true scale of hearts. He emphasizes that he had been informed of these events beforehand, and had neither lied nor hidden anything. This reveals his connection to divine knowledge and his position as a divinely guided leader. The fitna or trial that is approaching is not unknown to him. It is part of a destiny that he is prepared for, though it will be difficult for many to withstand. Imam Ali uses the metaphor of sin and piety as two types of horses. Sins are like wild, untrained horses with loosened reins, leading their riders into hell, uncontrollable and destructive. Piety, in contrast, is like a well-trained horse with reins in the hands of a skilled rider, guiding him toward paradise. These two paths, sin and piety, are presented not merely as moral options, but as living, active forces that carry their followers to their destinations. Every person is riding one of these horses, and their destination is determined by the direction of that ride. He describes truth and falsehood as having their own followers, their own historical rhythms. If falsehood triumphs for a time, it is not surprising, and if truth appears suppressed, that too is part of the divine pattern. It is rare for something that lags behind to come forward unless through divine intervention or genuine spiritual striving. These cycles are not causes for despair, but reminders to remain steadfast and patient. He states that the person who truly sees heaven and hell before him has no other aim in life. This vision narrows the believer's focus to eternal realities, making worldly ambitions seem petty and distractions meaningless. He who acts quickly succeeds, while even the slow seeker may attain his goal, but the one who delays and abandons action will be lost. Misleading paths surround the seeker on all sides, but the middle path, the path of the Quran and the Prophet's Sunnah, is the only one that leads to salvation. This is the path that does not sway with emotion or personal opinion. Deviating from it leads to ruin. He describes how the man who stands against truth, who resists it with arrogance or ignorance, is headed for destruction. Whether among the wise or the ignorant, opposing the truth severs a person from divine mercy. One of the greatest forms of ignorance, he says, is for a man to be unaware of his own self, his purpose, his origin, and his end. This ignorance blinds him from seeing the truth and leads him astray, regardless of external knowledge or status. Piety, according to Imam Ali, is not an abstract virtue. It is a lived reality that manifests in the heart, in the mind, and ultimately in action. True piety leaves a visible trace. It increases worship, humbles the soul, and cultivates fear of God. Without this piety, worship is empty, and actions are hollow. Taqwa, as described through various verses of the Quran, includes fear of Allah, devotion in action, purity of heart, and refraining from even doubtful matters. It operates on multiple levels: basic obedience, striving for recommended acts, and ultimately abstaining from even permissible things to guard against potential deviation. Actions built on taqwa are lasting. They are the only ones that will survive divine scrutiny and bear fruit in the hereafter. Actions without piety are like buildings without foundations, ready to collapse at any moment. Beliefs without conviction are like dry plantations, lifeless without water. Imam Ali roots all success both in this world and the next on the foundation of taqwa, which nourishes the soul, aligns the heart with divine will, and transforms every act into worship.